All right, today we're going to talk about Copilot Studio. For those who have not heard about Copilot Studio, so Copilot Studio is actually part of Microsoft's Copilot platform. And see, we have all kinds of Copilot. We're abusing the name Copilot quite a bit in everything we do at this point. But if you look at, and I'm going to show up right there, that little box right there, Copilot Studio is what we're talking about today. Copilot Studio is part of the Power Platform. So it's part of all the Copilot ecosystem, but we're more in between the developer and business applications because that's where the Power Platform sits. The Power Platform is meant to be low code for anybody to go out there and build whatever you want to pretty easily without having a whole lot of skill. So that's what we're going to talk about today, what you can leverage with Copilot Studio. So you're going to hear, like I said, you'll hear a bunch of Copilot names going on here. So I want to make sure we differentiate different types of Copilots. So the very first column is Copilot Studio. This is what we're talking about today. So Copilot Studio is a customizable one. You can customize how you want to behave. Now you can't customize a large language model, but you can customize how it behaves by doing a prompt instruction. You can embed in different things. And then also it has different kind of data sources. One of the things I'll point out here is your data sources. Right here, the most important thing about this, compared to all the Power Platform and all the Copilot pieces, I can connect this to any data source out there that has name. It doesn't matter what it is. ServiceNow, Salesforce, has an API connected. And it found it says development effort, it says difficult or moderate to high. It's not. It compared to the other two, and I'll explain why. It is compared to the other two, it's pretty moderate, but it's actually fairly easy to learn. And then we have our M365 Copilot. That's what we talked about earlier, is building M365. It looks at all the data you have access to M365. Copilot Studio, you scope it to whatever data you want to see. You want to see some data, you'll see the data. If you don't scope it to that data, it won't ever see it. So it never goes beyond the scope of what it's looking at. And then last one is SharePoint Agent. SharePoint Agent released a few weeks ago for GCC. It allows you to build an agent inside of SharePoint that can leverage AI capabilities. But this is only for SharePoint. It won't go outside of SharePoint. It won't look at public website. Copilot Studio can. So it's only for SharePoint. You can still tie a lot of SharePoint features in. It's one of the easiest ones to do because you go into Copilot, you go into SharePoint, you select your documents, you click on agent, it creates an agent based off the documentation. But once again, this is scope to what you specify. So, oops. Go back. So we talked about it so Copilot Studio is part of the Power Platform. The Power Platform is the 5 pieces: Power Apps, Power, which is our app development tool, low code, or you can be a developer and do advanced code. Then we have Power Automate, which is the automation engine, which is by far my favorite piece. So if you're familiar with SharePoint, it's like the SharePoint workflow engine, but on steroids. And we can do a lot more ads. You can connect to any data source out there you want to. And this is important because if you're doing anything with Copilot Studio, if you can't connect to Copilot Studio, Power Automate can for sure. As long as you have an API, you can connect to it. And then Power BI. Power BI is our data analytics tool. It's part of the Power Platform, but it pre-exists everything else. So it's kind of quasi thrown in together, but it interacts with some of them, but only at the Dataverse level. And then of course, Power Pages. Power Pages are external, internal facing websites you can make with Power Platform. So it allows you to build a page and nothing flat. You go out there, I'm going to build a page and then we'll build a page for you. Now, that one's low code. If you guys can't see my quotation line, that's low code, but you can build one pretty quickly. It won't be beautiful, but it'll work. And then you have your different options. So when I talk about like all these things can interact with Dataverse. Dataverse is a relational database that lives in Power Platform. So all those platforms can interact with Dataverse some way or some form. And then we also have our Power Platform connectors. This is mostly applied to our Power Apps and our Power Automate and our Copilot Studio. So previously for Copilot Studio, it's called Power Virtual Agent. Because we like renaming stuff. So we call it PVA. If you actually look at the URL, it still says Power Virtual Agent or PVA. So it used to be called Power Virtual Agent. It was very siloed. You had to, it was like a conversation bot. You had to tell it. When someone says hello, say this. When they say something back, do this. So you have to tell it every step of the way of what you want to do. You have to train it. So, but it was a lot easier than the Azure bots. Azure bots would take days and months to develop. This would take you a couple hours, maybe a couple weeks. But you had to account for everything. So if someone said hello in a different way, you have to make sure you include every prompt to get it. Because if not, it's like, I don't know what you're talking about. So it would kind of, and would say, I don't know what I answered that question. So it was one of the ones you had to kind of really work with. And then now it advent of Copilot Studio, which got renamed. So we have the conversation, we have that generative AI thing, which allows us to ground in our data or any data source we want to use, and we get the features of generative AI. And it can be contextualized and personalized. You can even tell your Copilot, I want you to talk like Robin Williams, and it will. I want you to fire everything like a pirate. It can do that. Whatever you tell it how to respond, it will respond with that. And the demonstration, you guys are actually going to take part in my demonstration. You're going to actually use one of them. You'll have to answer questions for me. So before left-hand chart, that's when we had regular power virtual. That's when we had the regular power virtual agent. So there was an opportunity for you to miss stuff because, once again, if you didn't put in the proper language, because there's regional things that people say differently. I'm from Texas. So in Texas, everything, any kind of like soda was called soda water. And I lived in California. California, that's a different connotation. It's actually soda water, which is horrible, by the way. But when I was a little kid, I hit the button, I'm like, oh, that's a Coke. Yeah, it was not. So that you can miss opportunities like that because you didn't understand maybe the regional dialect or the use of the words. But with generative AI, if you miss less opportunity for you to miss that because it can interpret this is what I think you mean, or you can even tell it, hey, if they say these things, they mean this. You can put all that in your instructions. So some of the use cases for governments, a lot of ones I see are up here, ones related to public facing. I have one of the states I work with, they actually do one for their Supreme Court. They answer questions about law. They actually have it usually goes to how I need to know how, what's the regulation for this or what's the law for this. They type it in, they can search all their documentation and give them information about the law and also link to it. So those are some use cases. And what I'm starting to see more is more help desk. It's more like your frontline support. You either have a question about something, send there. You can answer the question, you can point to the right information. You can even do stuff with the microservices for example. So the sky's the limit for Copilot Studio. So let's talk about the interface. I'm not gonna spend a whole lot of time because I'm gonna show you guys the actual interface, but the left-hand side is where you have all your options. So you can click on up here at the very top, click on agent. You can see our agents. When you click on agent, B pops up, and then B has a list of all the agents you have. And then once you select the agent, the screen in the middle pops up, and you get to see all the information about your Copilot Studio. So here's all the actions. You have your overview, your knowledge sources, your analytics, the activity map, all the information about that. But the most important piece, and I'm going to say this multiple times, is actually right here, your instructions for Copilot Studio. That is the most important thing in Copilot Studio you have to remember, besides your data source. Your instructions dictate how it behaves. You have to be clear how you want to behave. So for instance, say, I want you to do this. If someone asks a question that's not in the scope, tell them it's not in the scope of what I can answer. But if you don't tell it, it'll answer every question they throw at it. Oh, okay, you want one last Super Bowl? Here you go. But you say, hey, this is what you need to look at. It'll only look at those things on. So once again, scope. Your instructions matter more than anything else in this screen, besides your data source. Data source number one, instructions next coordination. Everything else, not that big of a deal, but those are two most important things you want to take from this. Instructions and your data source, but particularly your instructions. So we have two ways of creating an agent in GCC. Commercial, we have a third option. I'm gonna talk about it, but it's not my screenshots. So you have an option to type in the window, and then if you have enabled, you can type in the window and actually start to build an agent for you. It will not connect you to any data sources, but it will give you the framework for it. So if you have click on the box, type it in there, and it will do it. Next option is option 2. This option I always do. I click on create. I give my bot my name. I give it the instructions. I give it description. I point to data sources. Now, all these things can be done after the fact. So you can build a bot and come back and say, you know what? I want to change my data source, or I want to make a different instruction. You can always do it anytime you want to. It's pretty customizable as much as you want to. So when you go to publisher, we have so go to publisher agent, you have different channels. So here's some channels, but I'm gonna get to the X screen actually and bring it up. So these are all the different channels we can connect to, and that's what we give you content. So we have teams, of course, pretty easy to do. You also need to do a demo website, which you guys are to so you can actually embed any kind of website you want to because you have custom code. You're on the code piece of it that right there. You can also do Facebook. You have it interact with Facebook chat. You have it interact in the email. So any kind of website you have, you can embed it in. I've seen it embedded just like every kind of website you can think of. because they're right here, particularly in the web app part of it, it gives you the code. You can do an iframe and edit it inside. Pretty easy. Now, if you want to get crazy, do some real good stuff, you can do some of the other ones where you can do the native web app one, and you can actually go out and develop your own custom code behind it. So Copilot Studio has what they talk about. We talked about this in the very beginning. How it answers, it's like a script. When you say this, I'm going to respond with this. And then I'm going to give you your part, and you're going to come back and talk to me. So we have two topics that are created. So we're talking about conversation, so we're talking to the first one is a custom topic. If you're going to do anything Copilot Studio, you're most likely be doing something with a custom topic. You create a custom topic. Once you have your trigger phrase, and you have a conversation note. The pieces you have to have. You have to have a trigger and have a conversation. Your trigger, they could even customize any way you want to. You can also add any actions you want to. You can disable, you can delete them, you can change the name whenever you want to. So that's your custom with the ones you would create. But then you have a couple of built-in system ones. System ones can be modified, but they cannot be deleted. They can be disabled and modified. That's it. So if you don't want someone to use the system one, you just disable it. Or you modify it any way you want. For perfect example, there's one for feedback. So the feedback one has 5 stars. If you don't want to use 5 stars, you can do a thumb up, thumb down, you can replace that action. But you have to customize it. But default, it does 5 stars. But most of the other AI agents do thumb up, thumb down, you can get it. So you got to customize. You also can create your own topics. So once again, you have multiple ways to do it. You can do a blank one. Where you can basically pick the blank one, pick your trigger phrase or your trigger. But you have a couple different kind of triggers you want to use. You can do a trigger phrase, a trigger, or a bit received, message received. You can build it, and then once again, you build it from that point on how you want to. You have your trigger phrase and your conversation. Every Copilot Studio topic has 2 things: trigger and conversation. It's like power and trigger and your action. So you'll see why this is important later, but they're both very close in how they behave. You have to have those 2 things. And then if you want to, you can create it from a description. I want to create a topic, I order pizza. Now, with anything with AI, the more descriptive you are in the very beginning, the better it will be. So I want to order pizza. I want them to have an option to pick between these sizes of pizza and these types, and it will build a topic for you. So it will build everything. This pizza size, it comes for the pizza size, it comes for a type of pizza, second delivery, it comes for the address. Now, I didn't put this in the slide, but when you do a topic like that, it's smart enough to know that if you say at the very beginning, I want a large pepperoni pizza, it's going to skip the large part and get the pepperoni part and go to the delivery pizza. It's smart enough to know if you've already answered the question, it's going to skip over it. So unless you tell it to go back and answer the question, then it won't do it. You also can edit your topics. Every topic can be edited. Remember, every topic customer has the ones can't be edited. And then we'll talk about a trigger phrase. So there's a couple different types of trigger phrases. So it's a regular trigger phrase. If you do a dumb Copilot Studio that doesn't do Gen AI, they're trigger phrases. But if you do one that has Gen AI triggers and basically give it a description, if they say any kind of greeting, do this. But if you do the dumb one, they say hello, good afternoon, you have to spell out each one of those things. But if you say Gen AI, they say a greeting, then go into the greeting piece of it. And then we have our different conversation notes for trigger conversation. We have a bunch of things such as our advanced option, which allows HTTP request. We can do a call to action, we call Power Automate. That's why that part's important. We can reply back with a question, we can answer a question, and send a message back. So there's not too many things you can't do with it. You can even send information to application insight. You can even report information to ServiceNow or whatever help desk system you have. Because one of the things that you can't do it, what's built in, you have Power Automate. The Power Automate has thousands of connectors that you can use. And one great thing about Power Automate, if not one, you can make your own. As long as you're trying to connect to something that has an API that you can reach, create your own connector and put in Power Automate and Copilot Studio and leverage that. So back to calling the Power Automate. So I'm a Power Automate thing. So the first thing I learned. I can call any kind of Power Automate to be anything I want. I can call a Power Automate to go out and connect to Azure OpenAI AI, pull data back from that, and return to my Copilot Studio. So Power Automate is your gateway to get to any other data source that you can enable to get to the Copilot Studio. So as long as it has an API, As long as you can make an API, and you can reach it, whether internal or external, doesn't matter, as long as you can reach it. If you want to do internal, you have to have a data gateway, but as long as you can reach that data source on a Power Platform, you're good to go. So there's not too many things you can't do. Only thing you probably run into is the restriction of your agency. So with Copilot, so we have some generative AI pieces already built in. We've already talked, so the generative answer part of it, it's called answer node. That answers your question to AI. I'm sorry, ChatGPT, OpenAI. Now it does not specify what version we have. The last I heard was 3.5. It may be 4 at this point in time. But you can't change what AI model looks like. You just look at the AI model and Microsoft always specifies. And then we have our generative actions, which we're also going to discuss. But if it can't answer a question through the data source, you can have a call to action from Power Platform to go out and get information. Not a Power Automate, call to action, but go out and get the weather information. They can do that by telling if somebody asks for weather, go ahead and use this option. And here we are talking about the generative building part. We actually get to build your topics based off the information type in there. Once again, the more descriptive you are in the very beginning, the more time it will save you. So here's the general authoring part of it with generative AI. We've already kind of covered this, but once you type in what you want, everything where it says description, if it says description, put a good description in there, because if it's going to use generative AI, it's going to be looking for that description. So make sure you put something there. Hey, if they say, what's the weather like, or anything about weather, it knows, okay. So it's like, this action is to get weather information. Put that as your description. So you know, oh, they said the weather, I'm going to look at this action. Or I'm going to look at this topic. So make sure you put those. That's important. Make sure you always do that. So here's how everything looks. So you define your instruction. The instruction can be defined later on. You don't have to define it right then and there. You can define later on. You add your knowledge sources, which we're about to cover our knowledge sources. You configure any actions that you want. You add any kind of customization of topics, modify any topics, and then you define your anonymous scenario. So the trigger here part, the last part here, define triggers for anonymous scenario. We don't have that piece in GC as of yet. It's supposed to roll out this year, but it will be a whole nother step above this, where it actually will be smart enough to start taking action for your suggestion actions. So if everybody's got your phone out, take a picture of the slide. You think about the Indian Copilot Studio. This is the most important piece of it. So I'm point this out on the screen. When you build your instructions, you have to define what you're doing. And you should kind of do it this point. So you tell what the purpose is. You're a bot that does this. I want you to answer in a friendly, authoritative manner, or answer with humor. And then your guidelines. That's right. I want your digital guideline. I want you to look at this and this only. I want you to answer questions, but I don't want you to make up anything you can't find. I want you to say, I don't know. That's like your skills. I want you to give me the content in bullet form. I want you to give my content in this way. So you specify how the content you want to be shown. If you don't, it'll show any way it wants to. So this is the depth. This is the primary chart when you build your instructions to make sure you always follow that, because this will always ensure that you have the right information. So, and it's use AI to help you. So if you have chat, if you have Copilot Studio or Copilot, I'll give you guys an example. Put in there and say, hey, modify this to meet my requirement, and I'll go out there and modify it for you. Because even a slight change in a sentence in your instruction can give you completely different information. Like one time it could be really, really detailed, but you say, hey, just give me information. It just will summarize. But you say, hey, give me detailed information. It'll give you detailed information. So you have to be really careful with your prompts. And always play with your prompts, make sure you're getting the proper information the way you want to see it. Let's get to this. All right, so let's talk about our knowledge sources. So knowledge sources can be added. So what you see on the screen is basically what we're going to get in GCC. So Microsoft Fabric is not coming anytime soon. You're going to see it in your Copilot Studio. I'll get excited. Wait until you come soon. For some reason, they put it on our UI for some reason. But here's the chart we look at for your Copilot Studio. So other websites. Any public website that's being searchable, you can use. Now, it can't go down more than 2 levels. So, for instance, it's like Microsoft.com.training.powerplatform.powerapps. You can't go down to Power Apps. You got to stop at Power Platform. But it'll read everything below that. So any content below that will read. So this one, the top one, you can do non-authentication where you have a user not authenticate at all. They don't have to do any kind of authentication, just use it, put it on your public website, and it works just perfectly fine. We also can upload documents into the Copilot Studio. Those have a limitation of 512 and a certain type of documents you can upload, which will cover next screen. That can be authentication or no authentication. Once again, depends on what you want. But if you do anything down here, these three below here, or if you do a SharePoint URL, once again, this one, it doesn't say in our documentation, but you cannot drill down to a document library. You don't go to the site collection level, but a site level. Like for instance, if you have like subsite on top of subsite, your site collection level, telling your instructions, look at anything in this path for that site, and then it can drill down, but you can't go down to like the 15th site down below, which you should be doing anyway. But you can't do that. It will require, so any one will require you to authenticate. And these users have to authenticate into the Copilot Studio for enhanced authentication, because this is based off what you see. So SharePoint, when you go search to SharePoint, or you search in 365, it looks at all the stuff you have access to, and it says, here's the information I'm going to return. If you don't have access to it, you're not going to see it. Anything in Copilot Studio, it will not show you anything you don't have access to. And then the last one, this one hasn't shown up yet, for GC, part of this is here, it's called a Graph Connector. This allows you to basically pull information from your internal file server, your SharePoint site into Office 365. We can currently do that right now, but the connection to Copilot Studio is not yet available. Will be there shortly. So we have part of that feature that's currently available for us. So public website, I'm going to talk about it already. But again, two paths down. Here's our example. On bottom, see the same thing. This right here is invalid. Come back up this level. In your instructions, you say, hey, I want you to go down to this level and find everything below that. You tell them your instruction. And then it has this path from this port forward, find it. If it's not in that path, don't do anything with it. And then when we upload a file, these are the file types we can upload. You can actually upload them into Copilot Studio. So let me tell you about this feature. You can upload any documents you want in there. When it shows a citation, it's basically like it threw up on the page. You click on it and just word salad. It's kind of, it's no formatting whatsoever. It's just all there. So you cannot, at this time, you cannot format the citations for the when you upload documentation, but you do not anticipate either. So it's time you can make a change to the document. You got to upload a new version, but it will allow you to share documents externally if you need to. And of course, my favorite version is a SharePoint. You upload any document that SharePoint live, SharePoint site, takes it up. You point to your site collection, it takes up every document in there. It takes up every modern page, and it doesn't pick up lists. But automate and actions can take care of that for you. So there's a way to get everything. It will only show a user what they have access to. So say me and Prakash are on the same site. He has access to 5 documents. I have access to 25. My documents have more detail about the same time. He can type in the exact same thing. He'll get a different response than I do because I have access to more document. Yes.
Is that description the source generated, or can we edit that?
You can actually edit that. And I actually suggest you edit that. It would just throw that blunt generically in there. So you always want to make sure, like, put like your name and your description so it's easier to find. I'm on a bad habit of doing this, but you always do that so you can see it. So authentication. So authentication, we have three types of authentication. No authentication, and then the authentication of Microsoft. This one will only work. Even though the URL says something completely, or the information says something completely different, will only work for Teams and GCC. It says Teams and Power Apps. The Power Apps feature is not available for us, and the M365 piece is not available for us yet. That's called disability for the M365. We don't have those options yet. That'll be later on this year. So we'll only work for Teams. This is the easiest way to integrate this into your team, into like your Office 365, is doing Teams. It's actually fairly simple to do. You need a team admin to approve it, you're done. Now the second option, a manual authentication. This will work with anything you want to work with. If you want to embed in SharePoint, then we are getting a SharePoint feature soon that will allow it to make it easier. But until then, you have to use the manual authentication to embed it with SharePoint or any other system that you want to authenticate to. And to kind of walk you through, you have a couple of different options there. And so here's kind of the authentication part of it, more detailed on that. But you also have the generic one. If there's something not against your ID, like you're doing Okta, you're probably going to use like the generative one, or a dual, you probably have to use a generic one like that. If you have any kind of authentication side against your ID. All right, so Here's a topic, you got a copy like this invitation guide. If you have any questions about that, it's going to walk you through everything you need to know about Copilot Studio. Probably more than you want to know. And this is more learning information. Oh, sorry, we go back. Should I get shot at? And I think they're going to provide you guys a copy of these slides, if I'm correct. And then the next part of it is just more learning information about Copilot Studio. Because everybody have a phone. I want everybody to open their camera. I want everybody to scan my barcode. People at home, scan the barcode. It's going to take you to a Copilot Studio. This is pointing to the NCDIT site. Asking any question you want to ask about anything that they may have, how to reset your password, who's a point of contact for this. If it's on the website, you can type it in there and answer your question. So it's pointing at the content we specified earlier. So any content I have on the site, you can if you go out there and type in anything about NCDIT, go answer that question. Like I did was how to reset your password. It gave me a pretty good detailed description of what I need to do. You can also provide me the proper URL. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen. I'm going to actually share my screen instead. We're going to talk about what actually happened here. So here's my Copilot Studio. We talked about earlier about things that you can do. So here's my instructions right here. So here I'm telling it once again the row. This is your name. You are a friendly but yet authoritative guide. I'm setting what this purpose is right off the bat. Hey, this is your role. Here are the sources you go. Not specify my sources in knowledge, but I was like, these are the allowed sources. Don't look anything outside of that. So if it takes you up to a different, some different information, if it's not on those three sites, don't say anything about it. And then here's some of the core rules. Only answer from the site below, no guessing, and that's very important. So, ding, 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 really important thing. Tell it. If you don't have an answer, don't make up one. This will cut down the hallucination quite a bit. You say, hey, if you can't find an answer, say you don't know the answer. If not, it will try to come up with an answer with the information it has. So it will try to answer your question. But you say, hey, if you don't know the answer, or you can't confirm the answer, say, no, I don't know it. But that, when you get core rules, I'm going to have it in. And that's why I broke out, make it easy for you guys. And then citations. And here at the very bottom, if I scroll down, I give an example of how I want to answer. Here's a question, and here I want the answer. I basically gave the format of how I want the answer to return. So your instructions matter. So when you're working with this, make sure you understand instructions matter more than anything else. It should be the proper company. And so let's go look at my knowledge sources. So we've added, these are the sites I've added. I've added those sites in there, nothing special. I click on add source. And I have the ones I pick from, pick public website. I just type the URL in there. Same thing with the SharePoint piece of it. Go to pick SharePoint, type the URL in there. Again, site collection level. So that's how I add God's question.
Can you repeat again the how deep it goes?
It only goes 2 level deep. So for instance, if you do like Microsoft, SharePoint, Microsoft.SharePoint.com sites, and then the site collection level. You try to go like to a sub-site, it will not let you go down that far. So you have to do the site collection level because that's kind of 2 paths down. So, but you once again, your instruction, I want you to look at this sub-site only. You can say, yes, look at only this sub-site as the information to get information from. You can tell the instruction to ignore everything else. You don't look at that sub-site, but the information won't let you look. You also can do Dataverse. Dataverse does require you to turn on searching inside of Dataverse, and once again, have to authenticate it. And then we talk about our topics. So these are topics. First, we talked earlier about different greetings. Goodbye, hello, anything along those lines. It's going to respond back with information. I click on greetings. Now, because I turned on generative AI, it says phrase. So now it says, okay, anything like this. Anything along this line of hello, good afternoon, whatever is going on. It's going to be a statement, hey, hello, how are you today? Then you have all coming topics, but the most important topic out of all these ones, you will look at this system right here, terminal generative AI, conversation boost, and this is where all the generative AI magic happens. So here it says, okay, I don't know what you're talking about. I can't find a topic that matches what you're talking about. It said attempt an unknown. I don't know what you're talking about. I'm gonna look at data so tell me to. It goes down to this right here. I'm going to start create generative answer, and it could be and executes from there. And it looks at the data sources. So that's how I think that answers the question. Now I want everyone to get your phone out again. Hopefully you have the URL open. Ask it about the weather. You can pick whatever location you want to pick it on. If you need the URL, then you let me know. I'll put it back up here. But you can go there and ask by any kind of place you want to and ask what the weather is. It'll tell you. How can it tell me that when I didn't tell it? It's because I actually called it action right now. Get current weather. So it's going to call action. So what might be the current weather? I get this to click. My information right here explaining the weather, and then right here, description for how the agency uses. If you use gender action, description matters. So use this to get information about the location. So yes.
I was asking what's the weather in Wake Forest. I accidentally spelled Wake wrong. I put Well Forest. Came back with Wake Forest information.
Oh, did it?
But yeah.
So it's smart to know what you're looking for.
Talking about an error.
Huh? Good.
I'll let that.
And location is, it may not be something that's being serviced.
Because I asked it out Miami, Florida, and it gave me the same errors.
We just overlay, everything's hitting the same time.
Yeah, it's just, it just says what's the web that we.
So it may be that everybody's hitting at the same time as demo tenants, so we have a whole lot of horsepower. But once again, description, right here. Tell it how you want, I want you to say, give me weather information. This is what you define. You can do this so you can actually leverage this action to get stuff from the SharePoint list because that's a SharePoint action they added too. So I said, anything we can't do built in, we can use action or we can use Power Automate. So, and also our different channels. So here's our different channels that we have available to kind of take a look at those. The team to walk through the team thing, let's you submit to your admin for approval. You also have your different Facebook. And so here's an example of what I did. I just actually just coded an HTML page. Here's my Copilot Studio in this page I on my desktop. So I can interface and we're able to search for one. So now it's going out there looking at information. Let's return back the procedure to get information. I reset my password along with the links. And there it is. If I click on any links, it'll take it there. Yes.
So I'm trying to think about the use within my own team using something like this. Something that comes up is when we're offboarding staff and onboarding new staff, there's always like a gap in how to do stuff. So could I tailor this tool to make a chatbot that would help someone new in my role using some of the process documentation
Sure.
files that I have?
Whatever documentation you point to, like for instance, there's some limitation on type of file that it can do and size of files, but you can say, hey, go there, reference to getting the onboard procedure. A lot of people also starting to use onboard, so it walks you through, because you can even actually have a visual user account. And this person starting, got a new employee starting, okay, what's their name? What's their department, what's their job code? You can get all the information in chatbot, submit whatever system you need to submit to, and they can get a process of onboard. You can go out and create an AD account if you want. So the capability of this thing is pretty extensive, so there's not too many things you can't do.
This may be a little bit beyond the scope, but I was thinking about maybe a somewhat advanced idea or use case where you maybe train it on some of the knowledge that, or maybe on some of the institutional knowledge that a given team member possesses. And the interest of maybe creating a force multiplier within the team. is that something that falls within the capabilities of Copilot Studio? Is that something gonna be so advanced as to fall into the category of like after AI Foundry?
So it can do that. So the biggest thing you have to make sure that the content that person has, that the Copilot Studio can reach. So for instance, if they create documents or emails, whatever, as long as they're in SharePoint, it can go out there and find the information. As long as you can put it in somewhere where the Copilot becomes free, like only doing somebody's mail. Let's say you put somebody's OneDrive. Now everybody in the organization has access to the OneDrive, so it won't break data inside out. You don't have access to it. Put it somewhere like SharePoint. Anybody have any other questions?
I think you answered my question. So if I did have data and I wanted to stick it somewhere and control who had access to it through this engine, then you're saying, just look at where I place it, whether it's going to be SharePoint.
Yeah.
Okay, OneDrive or whatever.
So the easiest option is honestly SharePoint. The easiest option. Most people are familiar with SharePoint. Upload these documents there. Now just throw them out there and let SharePoint get indexed by SharePoint. And so you use that semantic index as our Copilot. So the easiest and fastest way to put stuff out there. But when you do that, you have to have authentication. There's no way around not having authentication.
And I don't, is there any cost to this? Like, I thought AI engines were really expensive.
So this one's a little bit different. So there's two licenses you have to have. One's called, and I didn't make up the names. One's called a user license. It's not a user license. It's a license to make a Copilot Studio, but they call it a user license for some unknown reason. You have to have that to be able to create a Copilot Studio, create or manage one. You can't even get to the platform without that license. If you go there's an access denied, it's not access thing, it's a license thing. So those are free. You can get as many of those as you want to. Now, when your cost comes, it's called the capacity license. You get like 25,000 messages. I'm going to give you the commercial price. I don't know what your price is, like $200 a month. You get 25,000 messages that your Copilot Studio can use for the entire month, and it resets every month. So that's where your cost is going to be on your capacity model.
And this is in addition to the $30 a month.
This is completely separate. So you're talking M365 Copilot. But M365 Copilot is completely different in that aspect. So that looks at everything in Office 365. This is on this information. So let's say you need like a gateway to get to everyone to, you want to see what the capability of AI are, but you don't want to spend $30 a month. Copilot Studio is what you're looking at because you're only paying the capacity, and that's it. And all you use it can use it for like you guys are all using the same one. You're not paying for it, just using it. I've already paid for capacity that way. So now, if you have increased Copilot, you can use a Copilot Studio unlimited. There's no limit of how many times, and they don't count against your capacity limit at what capacity.
So you have the $30 when you get this.
So you have a $30 one, you can use this per. You still have to have a user one.
Yeah, but that's free.
Yeah, but to use it, you use as much as they want to.
Okay.
Because
And what about the capacity limit?
so there's no capacity at that time, only for that user, because you have the regular M365 Copilot license for $30 a month. That gives you unlimited access to Copilot, unlimited conversation. But Copilot Studio is more scope. So one of the things that's coming is they call them agents that we're supposed to see in GCC, where you can create a Copilot agent to go out and do certain tasks for users. Like in Microsoft, I have one that helps me with Power Platform stuff. So I go out there and like, hey, I have to research hours on the end trying to figure out something. Hey, what's this error? And what you're seeing here, and you'll come back with some information. But it's only tailored to that purpose only. So you can create agents where your users share and they can just latch on that agent and do something in M365 Copilot. And then you don't have to use it at all. It's go use it and go back to M365 Copilot. But it's going to be extension. That part is later this year, later. So we'll see. But that's called, we also throw around the term extensibility quite a bit. So that will be something we will see later on too. Any other questions?
What was your name in case we?
Oh, sorry. Did I just say my name? So my name's Mose. I'm Mose Richardson.
Mose
Yes, M-O-S-E. I'm sorry, I didn't say my name completely. Got me in trouble.
Richardson.
Yes. So I do support the state and power platform. So if you guys have any questions, let's get reach out to your CSAM, your Microsoft contact. They can find me because everybody knows who I am. What else I'm missing here? We got 5 minutes. If you have any other questions, any other use cases you want to run past me.
Question, are you located in Mooresville?
I'm actually in Oklahoma. I'm in Oklahoma.
Wow.
Okay.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay, I
Yeah.
did that one for class.
but our team is kind of spread out, so I'm in Oklahoma, but I've been helping you guys for a while now. Anything else to tell about Copilot Studio? Oh, with your Copilot Studio, again, back to my points, I'm hammering home again. Instructions, instructions, instructions. Make sure you have good instructions. If you have bad instructions, you'll get bad results. It's like anything, if you go chat GPT and tell it something crazy, it'll come back with something crazy. So you gotta give it good instruction. Be clear what you want. Be clear what you want, what you expect from it. Because it doesn't interpret like we do. So you have to be clear that, hey, this is what I want.
Question. I don't know if you've seen, I'm sure you've seen like other chatbots where you could tell it to ignore all previous instructions. I assume there's some sort of protection against that for Copilot Studio?
So Copilot, oh, great question. So Copilot Studio has moderation built in. So if I say, tell me how to make a bomb, it's not going to answer the question. Even though I may have documentation out there, it's not going to answer the question. So it's not going to do something that violates any kind of moderation piece of it. And if you tell it to ignore something, it's going to ignore something. But in your instructions, hey, I don't want you to do anything outside, like, right? If you tell it, my Copilot Studio, it's like, tell me a joke. It's going to come back and say, I can't do that. It's going to be more polite about it, but
Would you like to end the conversation?
no, in this case, like, no, I'm not going to answer the question because it's not in scope what it's going to ask. So if someone does say something out of scope, it's going to say, they're going to ask the same question, what are you talking about? And it's going to keep asking over and over again. They're saying, do you want to end conversation? Well, actually, ask the question over there. But it will not go anything outside what you tell it to look at. So someone can't say, I want to look up somebody's salary because it doesn't know. But if you provide the information, it'll find it.
I'm using that. Would you like to end our conversation? Sounds like something my mother would say.
So kind of like my final pieces, whatever data source you feed it, it's what it knows. It will not know anything past that. So if you don't give it that information, it won't know it. So everything you have your upload documents, you have your SharePoint, you have Dataverse, and you also have your public websites. Those are our options right now. But there's another option outside that are automated in actions. There's even an action for ServiceNow. I don't know if you guys use ServiceNow, but there's an action for that. So you can go and have a retrieve ticket information for a user if you want to. Yeah, you can have it authenticate to a user and get that information, knows who they are, and go look up the information for them. Oh, sorry, someone asked a question. Who's the, I'm not sure I get the questions. If you have a question, let me see what the question is.